I finally have had some success again in cutting out YouTube out of my life. This is kind of part 2 because I already tried to make a video about this, the actual method, but I thought at least I had to explain quite a few things before, and so now this is part 2. The main thing that you need to watch YouTube is something you can listen to. Now, of course, you can also watch YouTube just by watching YouTube. And let's say for TikTok or Instagram, the visual part might be already too much. But with YouTube, I think it's different because there is still quite a little bit of... So I would say YouTube is more content-based, whereas Instagram and TikTok are more like visual content-based. So now, back to YouTube. So basically, I tried to construct a system in which it would be harder for me to listen to things on YouTube and then also to kind of be attached to the screen. So I basically needed to listen to audio only, but also then still have YouTube in some way in my life. So what I did is the following. I basically took my Bluetooth headsets, which I had two, and I tried this previously, but I didn't have kind of the room or the yard resources to do this. But what I now could do is I have access to an old shed, which is a couple of meters away. So maybe like 100 meters. And then I took basically my two Bluetooth headsets such that I still have access to them. And I also kind of, without having to ask someone else that then knows about this issue and then also possibly can frame me negatively for this. So without somebody else knowing, I basically took my two Bluetooth headsets and then I put them into a box and now they are in this shed. Which now means that my apartment here is kind of free of Bluetooth headsets. Which means I can listen to something, let's say on my... even potentially, basically in my studio, but also on my phone. But then I have to turn up the audio. There is also a slight social pressure because obviously people could also, in theory at least, listen in. And if you, from the outside, just hear YouTube running all the time on one's phone, of course it's also not that loud, but I think it's an additional factor. Because if you listen on headphones, then nobody can kind of hear what you're actually listening to. And also that you're listening to something because you could be listening to nothing and still have the headphones in. So basically I can have the speakers, but I have to be very intentional. And also I have to be very careful in listening because, well, the speakers are not that loud. So what this also allows me, or rather prohibits, is that I'm kind of caught in a YouTube loop in which I have the headphones on, or even worse, the earbuds in. Because if I have the earbuds in, then often if I take them out, they fall out and then they fall to the ground. And so there is kind of a threshold to putting them out. So there is kind of a threshold to putting them out, which I first have to overcome, but the less alert I am, the less cognitive control I am. And since basically YouTube then overruns my ability to basically in the ultradian lows kick myself up again by resting a little bit or also potentially napping. And the same happens with Netflix and other things as well, I think. And for me also with consuming sugar as well as junk food, etc. Then I take myself the ability to kick myself out from this YouTube or whatever consumption loop.